It's nice that we have a small group. Uh, I was a bit nervous about doing this, and my nervousness only accelerated in the last 5 minutes. So um, I'm going to share a little bit about what happened in the last 39 days since I deactivated my Facebook account, what's been my process. And then I'm just going to invite you to chime in with your own story and reflections about your experience with Facebook. Um, One of the first things I noticed when he's coming back. When I got off Facebook, like within the first week, I experienced an startling amount of anxiety. It was like I'd stepped into this vacuum and I wanted to fill it with something. And so I was watching YouTube videos, I was scanning the news, and I found I was still spending a lot of time online, sitting in this chair. So I started to look at what is this anxiety, and there was a fear of isolation underneath it, a fear of being alone, a fear of being abandoned. This is old stuff, been with me my entire life. And so there's sort of this other side of me which then wants to respond to that by having this perfectionistic desire for connection, to make it good, to make it right, to heal, to cover up or get rid of that anxiety. And also to create a sense of calm, to achieve what I call emotional sobriety, to be accepting that this is the way I am, this is the way Facebook is, deal with it, instead of being upset by it. So eventually what came up with for me was this curiosity about, well, what else is there besides Facebook in the world? And I got into gardening, I got into walking, I got into restarting a carving that I had started a long time ago and never finished. And I think all of you know that I'm a recovering addict. Went through treatment in 1985. So I've been at that a long time and had a lot of experience with group support meetings through the 12-step program. One of the other interesting things that I did I call this a program of self-care, is what I started working on. And one of the things I did was I started being curious about webinars, because I would get these announcements in my email of different things to attend. And one of the most interesting things that I learned or got stimulated by was the question of not what do I want to do, but who do I want to be, as the more important question. And so I began to look at that and found out that who I want to be is vulnerable and transparent, basically, to other people and myself. And underneath that is, I want to be in love with love. I want to be so transparent to myself that what is very much in the foreground of my perception is love. And for that then to result in the practice of love, to walk the talk, in other words. So that's what's on my mind now, is looking at the barriers to that way of being, and one by one working on those barriers, that baggage, I call it, of seeing myself as an individual separate from everybody else, and instead changing my focus to seeing myself as connected. That this is an independent task aside from being on Facebook or not being on Facebook. It's a separate issue. I restarted my Facebook account a few days ago, and noticed that at first I didn't even want to look at my notifications. I didn't want to look at the news feed. I just posted one thing and then stepped back to see what would happen. I got one like. And I thought, oh, interesting. Interesting that I even noticed that I had one like. And of course, in my early, I would say, analysis of Facebook, one of the views I have of it is that it's a corporate institution to make money off of people's loneliness. This is one of my big criticisms of Facebook, that it tends to suck us into that state of being to where we get addicted to likes and so forth. But what really rocks my boat with Facebook is when I can engage in a one-to-one conversation in a text, like comments back and forth about how do you see this issue? How does it make you feel? What's going on for you? Rather than scrolling through the newsfeed or scrolling through the comments, I like to respond and get another response back and get that going. And I think I'm going to stop there and open the floor to any comments, questions, whatever you might like to share. And if you just raise your hand, one at a time, let's the rest of us stay muted so we're not jumping in on top of each other. So yeah, Rebecca, unmute yourself. I can't unmute you for you.
I was just, the main people that I communicate with on Facebook are people I already know, and I haven't seen them for a long time, or I ask them a question about something that they've posted. So, and if I get something in my news feed from somebody I don't know, I don't even look at it, Matter of fact, I don't even check my news feed much. I get, yeah. So, and I don't check it any more often than I check my email. It just is, the people that I talk to are friends far off, or, cousins in Vermont or something like that, people that I know. And I just want to know what's going on with them, or whatever they've said is interesting. Yeah, and that way I find out about a cool TED Talk or a cool YouTube video, which is cool. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Ron.
You've said some intriguing things already, David. One of them is this fear of being alone, or for me, it's also a fear of missing out.
Right.
And I think that Facebook does something very deliberately to enhance this, I've noticed, is that when I go to my news feed, it's never exactly the same from minute to minute. If I refresh it, it shows different posts than it did a minute ago. If it always showed the same posts in the same order, I could look at it once an hour and catch up. But because it randomly shows me things, if I look away for even a couple minutes, I'm going to miss out on a feed, an item that might not come back. And I find this, addictive aspect of it that it also shows, this thing about likes, you're saying that you get this like, that not all of my posts are seen by all of my friends.
Right.
And so these things where people put things out and say, I want to see who responds. Well, only 10% of their friend group might actually get that query. So that's kind of built into undermines self-confidence. That if I put up saying, I want all my friends to click on this and say like, well, if you only get 1 out of 10 back, it's really not satisfying. And you want to do more and get more clicks and more recognition, or at least I do. If I got universal recognition off of each of my posts, I'd feel satisfied. But that doesn't happen. So there are these two tricks that Facebook does with the randomization of the posts, both that I'm posting and that I see, that really undermines self-esteem, confidence, and actually the ability to communicate ideas in this forum.
Yeah. I've tried to outsmart the algorithm. Can't do it.
Mm-mm.
And I was reflecting this morning that when I get onto Facebook, for me, it's like entering a convention of 600 people in a loud and noisy conversation, like a huge party. And I'm an introvert. And I'm walking into this room and I'm wondering, who knows I'm here? Who do I want to talk to? And yes, what am I missing out on? Is there someone on the far side of the room is saying something really interesting and I don't even know about it? Yeah, it's sort of like an out of control situation. And for me, taking a break from it was really healthy. And I'll probably do it again, or I'll do it like in spurts so that I only get on Facebook on Saturday or something. I have to put in some sort of self-management. Who else would like to share? Yeah, Dana, thank you.
So I have two things I want to share about my Facebook experience recently. One of them is that several years ago, I got I had always not had any coworker on my Facebook. It was I worked corporate America, and that was really easy to do. And I kept my friends very limited. And then several years ago, I got a job at a nonprofit, and I just fell in love with so many of the people that I came in contact with. And I wanted to be their friends on Facebook. I wanted to be able to see their lives and share my life with them. But it limited my self-expression because it was also my workplace. And so that's one kind of a drawback with Facebook or social medias is, for me, I don't feel like I can really be myself. And I have some friends that they work for themselves, and I mean, they just lay it all out. So I really love that they're able to do that. I just want to do that. And so that restriction sometimes feels a little too much. That's one thing about Facebook that I've been kind of like, I don't know if I really want to be sharing myself now that I put myself in a kind of more vulnerable position by welcoming so many friends. And then the second piece is I was really inspired by a woman named Glennon Doyle, who put out a 40-day challenge and said on the 40 days leading up to the election, let's all do everything we can, put everything on the table so that in 40 days, no matter what happens, you can say you did everything you could to make a difference in your current culture. And I'm like, what a great idea. I love it. I'm going to do it. 40 days. That's not so long. And there were 3 parts of this thing. You did a factual piece about how to support your nominee or voting. You did an inspirational piece and some other piece. I don't even remember now. And I was so thrilled because she had thrilled me. I was so thrilled that I did it and I declared it like, wow, a declarative sentence and statement on Facebook. I felt actually quite vulnerable making that commitment. And I did it with every fiber. I mean, like, I really did it. And I didn't even count on her to provide, because she said, I'll give you the information. I'll give you 40 days of things to share if you don't have your own things. So, but then I was finding my own things, and in particular, the inspirations. And nobody liked it. So I come back to that like thing. And I just, like, I logically, I could see how ridiculous that is, because that's not the point. If somebody likes it or not, clearly they're going to like it. They're my friends and it's cool stuff. Like, I didn't need validation logically, but it only took a couple of days. I think I maybe did it 3 to 5 days. And I started seeing, and my first day was an invitation to other people to do the same thing. And other people were, in these last 40 days, putting things on there that could make a difference. And which was great and beautiful, but I started to see the homogeny of my Facebook. All of my friends are the same and I love them and they're wonderful, but there's such a homogeny, and there's just no diversity. And so I'm like, what I'm saying is not really that interesting to any of these people, because they have the same access. They're getting the same information that I'm providing. So I'm not really providing a service. I have such a small group, even though it's large to me, it's really not a very diverse group of people. So I kind of just gave up, and in that embarrassment of just throwing in the towel, and also inspired by David, stopped looking at Facebook and have really loved it. But after taking a couple week break, it is nice to go on every so often and just see what people are up to. So more, it's nice to do that check and get back to what that originally maybe was for me, getting back to seeing what are people up to, but also being really clear that I can pick up my phone if I really want to know how somebody's doing. And so I have, and it's hard during the pandemic, but while the weather's still a little bit okay, I can do a outside porch tea time. So I've done that a time or two, or just talking on the phone. And then 2 weeks ago, I found a new technology that I do really love, which is Marco Polo. And that's an app on your phone that is a mix of FaceTime with texting. So it's a live video, but you don't have to have a give and take. It's just a live video, you send it, and when the people in your group or the person you're sending it to is ready, they watch it, and then they respond or they don't respond. And so to me, that ended up being like, oh, that's really fun. I still get to see people's faces. And so that was, I kind of filled in that communication piece with Marco Polo. So.
I see you, Meg, and I just want to comment to Dana that I resonate very much with that desire to want to contribute. It's one of the reasons that draws me into Facebook, is I want to post things that inspire, help, clarify for other people. And yes, I've discovered there are other ways to communicate and connect with people that are, for me, really effective. So Meg, what would you like to share? Unmute yourself.
I think that all of us have a different attitude towards Facebook, what we want from it and what we get from it. And I, like David, am an introvert, and the idea of picking up a phone and calling somebody is outside my comfort zone. However, one of the things that I really, really appreciated about it is that I live alone, and during this time, I'm in touch, and sometimes on a daily basis almost, with people that, with family, but I've also done a fair amount of traveling, and I've met people, and we've been part of a group. But through Facebook, I've gotten to know them. I mean, I can think of one person, for example, who is, she's a former nun. She's younger than I am. There are lots of things that we don't have in common, but we have knitting in common. And she's very quiet, and we've been on probably 2 or 3 knitting group things, and I've never really gotten to know her. And I have through these past few, well, particularly this year. And one of the things that Facebook has done is that I started off being totally apolitical, and I began to feel much more confident in expressing my opinions. There are people that I must admit I snoozed or completely eliminated, but I have enjoyed keeping up with people that I wouldn't, I'm not even sure I would have, in the days when I had a Christmas card list that I would have sent cards to. But I've learned about people from all walks of life, in or at least parts of my life. And I had a birthday a week ago, and I heard from my mother's hairdresser. My mother, my mother's been dead a dozen years. People I went to nursery school with, people I worked with, people of color, people of, just a bunch of different parts of my life. And it's made me realize how rich the life has been. And I found that, but you're talking about the randomness. My birthday was on Sunday, and today there were probably 5 or 6 messages that were sent for at least 5 days ago that showed up for the first time today. I don't know, as you say, you don't know what the algorithm is. I found things that a meeting that I was interested in on Wednesday, I saw the notice today. I mean, and it wasn't because I hadn't been looking at Facebook. I went cold turkey on Tuesday morning, and I didn't open up again until Thursday at lunchtime. I totally avoided it. And I don't know whether you've ever run into Heather.
Oh, we lost your sound. Meg, we cannot hear you.
Got rid of her.
Oh,
I'll call her back. So, but each of us does it for different reasons. So, and
yeah.
people and people, it's been wonderful. It's been very frustrating because there are people that I really like that I think, how can they possibly think that way? And there are people that I would have thought were totally apolitical, and certainly not my, on my same train of thought, that have turned out to, be supportive in these days that have been difficult. So thank you, and on to the next.
Thank you, Meg. Tara, do you have any comments?
Hi, David, and hi, everybody. I'm so glad to see you here, and I'm so glad you put this together. I think I saw you maybe a day or two after you left Facebook, and I was encouraging you to stay on because I missed you and I wasn't going to see your post. So I have missed being connected with you that way. And I use Facebook as a place where I experience culture of my friends or acquaintances that are not like me. I'm in this all white neighborhood of people who look like me and think like me, and I really seek out people who don't. So that's the way that I use Facebook. And Dana, I totally identify with you with connecting with people that I work with, and then not being able to share my true self. It's come back to bite me in the butt a few times. But I love Facebook for the reason of just being able to experience and hear things that I might not agree with or I might not like, and to be just to be accepting of that and to experience it. So that's my fun with Facebook. I probably look at it more than I should. I use it for work too. So it's another way that my work and my personal life are tied together. So I struggle with that. And I don't feel like I can share my true self, but I love the piece of getting to experience cultures, ideas, and people that I wouldn't necessarily come in contact with. So I miss you, David, and I want to see you in person. A coffee date is always better than just commenting on a post.
Amen to that. Tea, coffee, anytime with any of you is, or FaceTime. You know, I know Meg, you're in, is it Vermont or New Hampshire?
Texas,
Texas.
yes. The craziest place in the world.
Oh, yeah. So, Dana? You have to unmute.
And out of the 6, 3 of us are related, and I have not met the other 2.
Yes.
And that's, hi,
Meg.
Rebecca.
Meg is a second cousin through our grandparents.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I miss your post too. And you've put some on since you've been back the last couple days, and it's been really nice to see those, because not a lot of people I'm friends with. It's mostly kind of what's going on in your life and life posts that they make, and which are great, but it's been nice to see that. So thanks for sharing yourself in that way again with us for a time being.
Thank you, Dana. Yeah, Ron?
Something that occurred to me that I might start doing is to be more deliberate about my Facebook usage. I like what Tara was saying about, gaining access to other cultures and people that I might not associate with regularly. And the other great aspect for me is just what you were talking about, your family. I have friends that are dispersed literally all over the world, that without this kind of social venue, I would have no hope of communicating with, really. So that has value to me. And staying in touch with those specific people. So maybe making browser links that go directly to those people's feeds. So I'm not randomly getting them. I'm kind of beating the algorithm by going directly to that person's feed and looking at their life as they post it. I think that might be more rewarding to me, to, like my friend Michael, who's in New York, who I haven't seen since we were roommates in Honolulu in the late 80s. But I love Michael. I mean, he has this Facebook show he does, but to deliberately go to his feed and see what he's doing. And then also what Tara was saying, deliberately then searching for pages, the way I might search for neighborhoods in a city. What pages, what cultures am I interested in? And then, do I want to visit Italy? I could go find pages in Italy or about Italy or whatever culture, or Central Africa or whatever it is, but really seek out those cultural experiences and not just depend on them to randomly appear in my feed. So I'm getting that sense that if I can master this by being more deliberate about my usage, it can be much more a rewarding experience, possibly.
Thanks, Ron. I like that idea. Bookmarking is really easy to do. Dana? We're running down to about 4 minutes left here.
I'll make this super quick. That's what I did with Instagram because I didn't use Instagram for myself. I really wanted to be hearing from Black women, educators, activists, speakers. And so I started following Black women authors and these people. And then they followed people and they quote from people. So then I would follow who they quote. And now my Instagram feed is just so nurturing of that interest of mine. And so that works. So that has really certainly worked for me in that particular way.
Thanks, Dana. Well, gee, I think I want to wrap this up and thank you for really kind of helping me look at this from different facets and expanding the facets to other ways of being digitally connected, which we are somewhat forced to do because of COVID. And Zoom, I appreciate very much because I find for me, I get much more emotionally connected to people when I can see their faces and all that nonverbal language, etc. I've been spending a lot of time on Zoom with different groups that support me. And I've also found out I have to be very selective because not all Zoom groups are like that for me. And some work, some don't. So yeah, and Ron, yeah, it has to be deliberate, I think. We have to decide when we're logging on. Why am I logging on? What do I want to do? Where do I want to go? And not be sucked into a rabbit hole. That's the worst part of Facebook for me is the rabbit hole. So again, thank you. And maybe we'll
Thank
do
you,
this
David.
again.
Let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, okay. I'll keep the list active. I'll share this recording with everybody on the list.
All right.